What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Podcast. My name is Eric Taylor. As we get ready to get this thing started, as always, on this particular podcast, we must give you. I have an echo on my side here, but there we go. We have the disclaimer. This is explicit content. If cursing and other graphic information may be offensive to you, please disconnect now because once we get started, it's just a no holds barge, and this is what we're going to do. Let us know what you think about what we think in the chat comments there, and we'll kind of read them as we go along. With that, all views of everybody here are their own and not of their company that they represent. And I think that's enough of the disclaimers. With that, we will get started. First up, we have Mr. Shiva Brown, formerly known as the Sad Face Orange Man. I'm not sure if that's a Trump thing or whatever, but he's definitely a sad, sad dude. We have Mr. Dave with some new swanky gear over there. I'm sure he'll come up in conversations. Mr. Andy, Mr. Robert, and the cool kid wannabe, Mr. Brian Weiss, who looks like he's trying to be Elvis.
Kind of looks like Johnny Bravo.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But can he fry an egg?
That's what he's got a wife for.
So what's going on, gentlemen? I see a lot of Dado, and I see one Kaseya shirt here. What's going on with this?
Dave got the new swag.
How did you get the new swag?
I'm so jealous.
Oh, Dave.
Dave's still trying to figure out his audio.
Dave, are you having audio issues? Oh, goodness.
I don't even know if he can hear us.
I don't think he can.
Hey, I want to try to get the rules established here, okay? Because y'all invited me. Can we say gay in this room?
Yes. The
Yes.
politically correctness has been checked at the
Only
door.
It's
if you're from
hosted, it's
Florida.
hosted in South
just-
Carolina,
I
not
just-
Florida.
I just wanted to know before I said, Brian, that shirt is awful gay.
I don't know anyone else that would wear something like this.
What is with all the Dado stuff? Y'all do know those guys don't exist anymore, right?
Soon
Well,
to be.
it's not final. Come on now. Yeah.
Soon to be.
Nothing's final until
Till that
the
stock
paperwork gets
transfers
signed.
hands.
Yeah, there you go.
Till the stock transfers hands. And I get my payout.
Yeah, anybody who
How
runs
much is your
this
payout?
knows. Yeah.
What is it? $35, $50 a share? Whatever it is.
That's the only way that stock was ever going to come that high.
Well, I'm going to look it up right now. Let's see
I'm
where
still
we're at.
reeling.
I'm glad I finally made some money. Put it that way.
You guys are stuck in the Stone Age, man. You got to step it up.
There you go.
Yeah, I was asking you how you got that shirt already.
You got to be on the know. Then you get the updated stuff.
But see, now Brian is the self-proclaimed person.
Advisory board isn't it. You got to be in a know.
Yeah, but didn't Eric, didn't Eric Torres leave and go to ScalePad?
And
Yeah, what's it got to do with the price of tea in
So
China?
True.
Well, I don't know. He was the swag hookup. Oh, you got the direct link to Robert, don't you?
Hey, Andy,
Sir.
Mevo, MEVO.
Oh, that's what it's called. All right, before this started, we were looking at conference room.
Yeah, I was about to say we're just injecting side conversations into
We
the.
were talking about conference room cameras, and we weren't sure what this one machine.
This
was
is a
called.
3-camera setup for $1,000. I'm telling you, it's pretty cool.
How do you boys feel about managed socks, Eric? Want a QR code?
I like to wear my own socks. I don't want somebody else managing my wearing of socks.
I wouldn't have a problem. Will they keep them matched? If
But
we can
they-
do that, I'll pay somebody.
What if they knit them from the ground up?
Isn't that what PAX8 does?
Oh, that's what Steve Taylor did.
socks will make you sticky.
Would they
What are
really?
we talking about today, gentlemen? Because people are already bored.
I don't know. I tried
Yeah.
triggering Eric. You know what? I know what we're going to talk about today.
I didn't
Challenge
realize
accepted.
I
Here we
didn't
go.
realize it was any particular.
I would love to know anyone in this room who does IR for a living, what their thoughts are on ConnectWise offering
Time to go.
IR services. And then I was at the channel pitch earlier today, and the head CEO of Solutions Granted said it's really nice that his clients have IR services without having to sign a retainer agreement? Eric, we're going to tee that one up for you, sir.
All right, so here comes the dumpster fire. Here we go. I've said this numerous times already. ConnectWise has no fucking business being in IR. It's a conflict of interest. Get the fuck out of it. You don't make a software and be like, oh, well, now we're going to do the incident response for your software, and we'll probably sweep under the rug the vulnerability we find while doing the IR case for you. It's a huge conflict of interest. It's just dumb.
So
And-
if you hire them to do your, if you're a ConnectWise shop and you hire them to do your IR stuff, and you have an incident and they're responding to it, and they find out that the reason of the incident was something that their software allowed to happen, you don't think they are going to stand up and say, "Hey, yes, your client got hacked and it's our fault"?
Yeah, no, they're not going to do that.
Okay, I just wondered.
I almost wonder if they would keep it more or less like a separation of states. I mean, I'm sure a lot of these companies have sub companies and subsidiaries and things of that nature. If they keep that as its own separate state, such that the IR, product that you buy effectively is 100% independent of the actual ConnectWise.
Well, then
Why don't
you
meaning
wouldn't
automated-
pay ConnectWise for that,
Yeah.
then, right?
Then
mean,
why
it's
didn't they
sold-
spin up a separate company and say it's a ConnectWise company or something
Yeah,
instead of running it under the ConnectWise brand?
you got a point. I mean, they did automate like that for a long time. LabTech, a ConnectWise company, didn't they?
Yeah.
Initially on the acquisition.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, that you're right. I mean, that is exactly where it would get really tricky. Is if they find an actual security flaw in their software, does that reflect back on you? Does that reflect back on them? And who's
It was your
liable
fault.
for any of that?
You misconfigured.
Yeah,
the
obviously,
application.
it's always our fault for missing their security flaw. But
I'm sure it'll
From a-
lead to a really
from a
awkward
financial
conversation.
yeah, that's
And that's even if the conversation comes up, right? They could easily, on the back end be like, oh, well, we're just going to tell them, it was from something else or whatever. There's, at least when you have a third party, they are working like Barricade Cyber. We work for the client, right? We don't work for the insurance company. We don't work for the legal firm. While some of our work may pass through them, we work for the client, not for the vendor. So if you've got the vendor doing the IR, like I said, it's a conflict of interest. They're not going to fully disclose what's going on. I don't think.
You think a managed SOC can be an IR firm?
I think if the managed SOC could, if it was not an existing client.
Okay. You don't think a managed SOC is built for limited resources for as many people as possible? So they're probably already stretched thin. Now you want them to go into IR?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea.
I don't think your managed SOC should do your IR unless they have a team dedicated and that's all they do. It shouldn't be like, hey, we're going to peel off some of our SOC guys to handle this IR incident real quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
But I mean, I think to Eric's point, it's like, I think they should be the ones to do it. But what if the incident was caused by their software? Are they going to tell you all that up front? You kind of run into the same thing, right?
That would never happen.
Like, let's take Perch or Huntress, right? If they start doing IR and it was a vulnerability or something that they didn't catch, that should have been part of their solution. I think it's heavy conflict of interest. If they were to do it for a company that was not in their current portfolio, then I can kind of see it, right? It's like, okay,
here's a conflict of interest. If you're the one responsible for catching the threats, but you also make money when the threats aren't caught.
Stop talking about QBRs, Brian.
Do you get complacent with catching threats, knowing you're going to make money on the back end with the IR?
That's only if you get the IR too, though, right?
If you're doing
Fair.
QBRs for
Yeah.
a company that's driving more business to you, wouldn't that be a conflict of interest too?
You lost me on that one. Are we
You
going into
got an
business?
interesting point there. Yeah.
Think about it. The QBR, quarterly business review, is all about finding gaps and holes in a client and suggesting work that needs to be done. In a typical MSP relationship, who's going to do that work? So this whole VCIO thing, it's just a really nice way to create more work for yourself, more billable work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's in the. I mean, if you're doing it right, it's in the best interest of the client, right? It's not
Is
a
it?
sleazy. It's not the sleazy car salesman selling someone a car that they don't need.
Well-
It's, hey, we feel you need this. I mean, if you're doing it right, I want to clarify my statement by saying that, right?
So Microsoft 365 Business Basic is not a good solution.
You're not doing it right.
I think every
Oh,
company
man.
should be on M365 business standard.
Yeah.
That is the tip of the spear right there.
Yeah.
No, that's no.
Oh Lord.
I want to
but
get
the
back
other side
to.
the other thing that you were mentioning, Shiva, about solutions granted. I didn't catch that thing. So I'm wondering, if this is part of the same case where, they are providing the SOC service, because I know they do SOC service and they resell some other vendors and
Info
stuff
site.
like, yeah. Are they providing the IR because of whatever issues for an existing client or a new client? Because I mean,
Existing.
so in IR, there's two different mindsets right now where literally you can do one of two things. You could have a ad hoc, if you will, incident response case where you hire someone in to come in and clean up or diagnose and figure out the issue and help you clean it up if you want it. Or you could pay on a retainer and you get their solutions,
Granted.
like you get their solutions and you get, a bucket of hours if something was to happen. So I don't see what I guess they're just not doing the retainer side at all. They're just going to do it all as ad hoc, which
I think a lot of this has to do with larger firms are needing more from their vendors. They don't want to search for an external vendor, and they need to check a box.
yeah.
And instead of having or hiring a very expensive asset on the inside or hiring an expensive independent firm, the third parties, be it whoever, have made a solution for them. And that solution is, and I'm not saying that solution's perfect. I'm not saying that solution is the be all end all. I think honestly, I wouldn't go with it in any instance, because it's a matter of, again, it's the, why should I trust you when your product was the one that may have deployed or caused the problem to begin with? But it's kind of like the whole thing of, hey, we're going to a singular vendor. We trust this vendor already, and we want to continue with the vendor, and we need products and services. And the vendor is seeing this as a way to capitalize on a need long term.
I think you hit it on the nail with the check the box, right?
And I think it's a large checkbox thing.
Eric, can you, for the audience, explain ad hoc versus retainer when it comes to IR? Like, why would you want one or the other, right?
I mean, it really is a case-by-case scenario. So, I mean, smaller companies or companies that just want a specific instance taken care of or investigated, I should say, will do ad hoc or AKA time and material. You pay for one service or one incident, and that's it. You're done, right?
So effectively, just to fully whole, make it all whole. This is effectively, hey, oh crap, my business got ransomwared, or my business has a threat running rampant on the network, and I need somebody now to take care of that. That's the ad hoc.
Yep.
All right.
But the retainer is literally where you would hire, a Kroll, a Mandiant, a FireEye, a Barricade, or whatever. We're deploying our tools, so you're getting part of our security suite, and we have insight, so it removes the uptime ramp up of deploying tools and being able to quickly assess a situation. So, and most of the time, the retainer is just like, if you're in the IT or MSP space and you're selling services, you do a block hour agreement for a little bit of a discounted rate. It's kind of the same thing. So, a lot of companies, including ourselves, are, if you're getting toward the end of that 1 year retainer, we're also saying, okay, you haven't used these hours. We see all these potential security things you could do to increase your posture. Let's spend some of these hours and increase your security posture going into the next year. So at least they're getting some value out of it. Yes, Shiva.
So is the object here to get WebRoot installed pre-incident?
Those who don't know, I think we all hate
the
WebRoot.
answer. Come on.
The answer to that is if you're using an IR company that relies on WebRoot to do their work, you need to find a new IR company.
I don't know how the hell you're going to get IR to be done on WebRoot to begin with.
They have EDR now.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
But so Eric, but that's a good point, right? It's like, obviously when an incident happens, if the IR team already has their tools installed, already has all that information, probably was privy to the incident as it was happening, right? I mean, they're going to be able to recover a lot better. Now, what about a situation where an MSP already has all these tools deployed? And let's, for the sake of argument, say they're the same tools you use for your IR. Can they set up a retainer with you where maybe they give you some sort of co-managed access and then you can be their IR retainer, right? As long as they're using the right tools.
Yeah. It will make sure that, things are properly configured, things of that nature, right? Just like anybody else would, right? So go through the policies and procedures and make sure things are configured the way they need to be. Because, you at the end of the day, any IR firm, any business loves making money, right? That's the purpose of being in business. But IR firms don't want to see business get breached if they can help it. I know Shiva would disagree.
Lies.
Like
that's like a cybersecurity company saying they want ransomware to be gone and actually mean it.
Well, it's like saying that the emergency center at a hospital wants to see less patients.
Yeah,
that's a major driving
everything.
That's a major driving source of income for them.
What'd you say, Andy?
I mean,
that's why there's ambulances usually parked in random places in cities during rush hour. First one to get there, take it right to the hospital.
To their hospital, even to the nearest, safest place that just happens to be their hospital across town.
Yep.
But in all fairness, I mean, Eric, you deal with IR day in and day out. It's almost, I almost think of it like if I was a lawyer, like if I was in family law, like a divorce lawyer, right? You're just dealing with freaking emotions all the time, or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it's like people whose lives have been flipped upside down overnight. You know what I mean? So I'm sure going through that, your natural idea is like, hey, I wish I could have prevented this, right? Because so I agree with that statement that IR firms, if they could get involved at the retainer level where they've got their software in there ahead of time, they'd much rather catch it ahead of time and stop it versus be brought in after the bomb's gone off and try to put things back together, right?
Yeah, and I mean, to geek out a little bit on it, I mean, I don't know any IR firm that likes to see a company getting breached that had, open RDP, unpatched Exchange servers, all that stuff,
We just have to put Cyber Reason on there and nothing will happen. Worst thing they'll do is use it as a third-party scanning tool.
The mechanical owl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we like the real clever ones that, that get interesting ways in of, malicious payloads through email or, some sort of FTP server or something. The break of the monotony, because a lot of these times it's just the same thing. It's like,
what does the security onion look like these days, or what should it?
I fucking knew you were gonna go there. When he said he's going to trigger me a few minutes ago, I thought he forgot by now, but no.
So we're going in with Rocket
Well,
Cyber.
I mean, okay, so we have. I mean, and this was something that I kind of touched upon this week, and I read it earlier this week, and I think I posted it to you guys. But I mean, obviously, we need an onion of some sort because we have Russia now reinvigorating Emotet and all of their bots, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a fan of onions. I don't like the way that they taste when you eat them raw. It's pretty gross.
That's why you fried.
Yeah, but you fry them up. Love them.
Okay, so let's build a stack here. For the SOC, we've got Rocket Cyber.
God bless us all.
And because
PSA
Data is now a
Autotask.
Kaseya company, or soon to be, we'll use BitDam for the email.
Dear God, help me.
You know, BitDam. I
Do you
would
get
say
a
for-
Sorry,
do you get a
children.
do you get a discount from Kaseya when you use all their products?
Probably
No,
not.
but you do get a 6-year contract if you'd like.
Versus the 3-year standard.
It's not if you
agreement.
like, it's automatically done.
Yeah.
well,
That's at
actually,
renewal, you have a 9-year contract now.
so if we want to get on that topic, I heard something that, and through the rumor, maybe this doesn't happen. ConnectWise, maybe it wasn't ConnectWise. I don't know. Setting a high bar minimum based on your most recent spend. And so basically like, hey, you're up to 10K a month. That's or low bar minimum. Sorry, that's what I meant. Now that's your minimum, 10K a month, right? You can't drop below that. The idea is they're trying to get you up on spend and raise the bar on your minimum as you get up there as part of their new contracts. So it's no longer necessarily about the length of the contract that I think we're gonna start to see. It's gonna be, hey, we want to get your minimum spend up to a point so we know it's not going to drop below that, right? Maybe it's both. Maybe it's
that's
length
a
of
really
contract
nice way
and
to be
that.
partner first, right?
Not really,
I'm
but
about to say,
you know,
how'd that work out from?
it keeps
So-
it keeps shareholders happy, right, and investors.
So NC all over again. You're stuck between the contract and the minimum and the end user.
Actually, you're right. Maybe they're taking a page from the NCE book. That's a good point.
Yeah, but I need Microsoft for my business. I don't need MSP tools.
Autotask was like that back in the day. I don't know if it still is, but you went up, you stayed up. You couldn't come back down.
Well, and I had an interesting discussion today with some of my team members and on another kind of group I was talking in about. It's like, hey, I'm an IT company. Like I'm supposed to be on the forefront of technology, but I'm literally running a PSA Autotask that was built like 15 years ago and carries so much tech debt that it's hard to sneak any realistic new feature request in there without having to get a whole team involved to make sure you don't break something, right?
Explain that term, tech debt, please.
Tech debt. Well, it's accumulation.
Check
of
that.
things.
I can sum it up in 3 words.
Do it.
Well, 4. Managed services provider vendor.
No.
Oh, come on.
Total
come on.
code rewrite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round
Tech
up.
Rewrite.
debt.
There you go.
Tech debt is, hey, we wish this didn't have as many lines of code as it does, and if we rewrote it today from scratch, it wouldn't, right? It's all that old code from an old framework that's antiquated, that doesn't even follow today's best practices that you're trying to build new best practices around, combined with security. What are the vulnerabilities security-wise from the old framework? What does Microsoft Graph require you have to be securely integrating with it today that some of these old frameworks might have trouble with? I don't know. You know, I mean, there's all these.
1.0.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these
Yeah.
facets to tech debt, but ultimately, it's a product that was developed so long ago that it's like the used car syndrome. You're putting more money into the product to keep it running than the damn product's even worth.
It's
Like,
the whole
let's-
to put it in other terms. Many businesses still run their business on Visual Fox Pro.
Mm-hmm.
That still runs and requires SMB version 1. SMB version 1 has been deprecated since 2012. It's the same concept.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's tons of dentist office that run software with Visual Fox Pro. I mean, I know several, service companies that run software that still use Visual Fox Pro. Same concept, but just in business, terms that other people would know.
Since you're bringing up old software, how do you guys deal with customers who don't want to update or upgrade their equipment and software?
Depends
Equipment
on
or
what-
software? Which one?
A, B, C, all three?
I mean, so I got a unique. I mean, everybody
I
here
think-
knows that most
Go
of my
ahead.
stuff is in manufacturing, so that you can't. We have to literally separate the network from OT and IT, operating tech and internal tech, and put it on their own separate networks. And like, there's many manufacturing companies running today all over this country that are their software is still coded for Windows Server 2003. That it will literally take them $4.5 million, 4.56 whatever $1 million for a new program to come in and try to code this thing, because the developers are long gone.
Yeah, but what's
Yeah.
their annual revenue? $4.5 million. If they're doing a few $100 million a year for security, it's worth it.
Well, yeah,
That's
but
the thing,
the
is it-
hardware is the problem, right? The hardware that handles, like, you got the software, right, and then the hardware on the other end. That's
Mhm.
really the problem.
Like,
Is
so,
they still need to make these widgets with this hardware.
yeah.
Software is easy to update, but the hardware is the one that can't work with new software.
Like, Dave,
right?
a lot of the control board for the software is still purely IPX.
Yeah.
There is no Ethernet, true Ethernet, or even TCP/IP. That's just not even a thing. It's all old IPX. There's no. I mean, the industry as a whole, tech as a whole, has moved well beyond that. That's just not even a thing anymore.
But Eric pointed
Yeah.
it out, right? You basically have to silo those devices on their own network so they don't act as a vulnerability for the other devices, right?
And pray the
I-
installer still works.
To
You gotta
answer
repair anything. I mean, really.
to answer Shiva's question, short of some sort of limitation like that, where it's like, hey, we can't even do business, right? Like, this thing that makes widgets will stop working. Short of that situation, I think it's up to the MSPs to put their foot down and basically say, hey, we're either going to charge you a buttload of extra money to keep managing this legacy equipment, or you could take that buttload of extra money you're paying us to manage it and invest that in just upgrading or replacing it like you should do in the first
How many
place.
deals have you lost to IT providers that were cheaper than you?
It's becoming more and more of a thing because I'm getting more and more expensive.
So does that logic apply of saying you can either pay me more for to take care of your older gear, or you can upgrade new gear, or do they just go to the third option, which is the trunk slammer charging not enough?
Well, it's a maturity thing, right? Like, the maturity of your client should not be less than your maturity. Like, what has helped grow my business the most is my largest co-managed client, who was maturing way faster than we were and basically said, hey, do you want to come along for the ride? And I'm like, hell yeah, make me part of this, right? If you have clients that have a lower business maturity than you do, they're just going to drag you down with them, right? Trying to support them.
So Black Knight asked, how hard would it be to apply a converter to these devices? It's not easy, is basically what it boils down to at all. So a lot of these use direct command and control. They're effectively serial. It's an Ethernet serial port for the best majority of it. And the other problem is actually software that actually runs them. Most of it was coded in 16-bit. So you end up with a problem where the last known 16-bit supported operating system is actually Windows. I think there was a 32. No, Windows 10 was not 32-bit at all. It was purely 64-bit. So the last known modern operating system was Windows 8 32-bit. And that's only because you could upgrade it from Windows 7 32-bit.
Yeah.
And that's because purely that the 16-bit interpreter for that program is still there in the 32-bit version. Most of the software I've seen out there for these gargantuan machines, they all run on Windows 2000. Windows 2000 or Windows XP. They haven't gone anywhere past that. And they're all Windows XP 32-bit, not 64-bit. And most of the hardware plugs on them are either direct serial ports or they're actually using the IPX and direct IPX commands out of the Ethernet port. There's no TCP IP. There's no modern, there's no modern anything when it comes down to these things.
And to piggyback on that, if I might, the ones that we're seeing, that you got your piece of hardware and you got a box that's essentially your controller that's connecting to the the token rings or whatever. Some of these are being upgraded to actually support an Ethernet connection, so they are getting one step above. But the serious problem is they don't support DHCP. Everything's got to be static, which okay, I can live with that, not a big deal. But they only support 10100 networks. If you plug them up to, a full managed switch or anything like that, or 1 gig switch, these things freak out.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to manually
even with auto negotiate on, it still doesn't. Go ahead, Dave.
How old a machine are you talking about here?
We're
At
talking
least 20,
machines.
30 years.
Yeah, we're talking about machines that were manufactured probably mid to late 80s.
Yep.
I mean, because you end up, mid to late 80s, and then, had basic Windows 3.1 to 3.11, basically a literal control box. That's it. And then they had a mouse so you can click, hey, chop this thing there. And that was that. And then they were upgraded through 98 to 2000 and so forth. I've seen a ton of hardware that was manufactured, and even in the 90s, that was using software that was written for Windows 3.1 16-bit era. They just never updated it. They just never updated it.
And you know what that is? That's the client's tech debt. They have tech debt.
Yeah, that's tech debt. You're right, and it's not necessarily the client's tech debt. It's sometimes it's purely the manufacturing company that manufactured these things and the software with it. They get acquired by another company, who gets acquired by another company, and then another company, and then final company ABC has really no idea about the software that is still quote unquote supported by the original company. And so you can contact these guys and be like, hey, what's the upgrade path for this? We have that in our stack. We bought that company. That's I've had a conversation.
So there's big companies buying other companies and screwing everything up. Never heard of that happening.
But that's something that I have completely seen. And you're right, it should factor into ROI, but in general terms, the 5 to 10 year forecast for most companies don't include that.
Yep.
And that's the problem. I mean, you look at that's one of the things I talk to my clients about all the time is, okay, 5 to 10 years from now, we still have security. We need to have some sort of funding for security issues going forward. But that's something that a lot of companies just don't think about because they're here in the now to make money now.
I have a question for Black Knight T2. Has anyone actually shown the ROI on investing in security?
I've
Instead of just
tried.
talking about it.
I've tried.
It's really hard to show that.
It is.
It really is.
Well, there's not really an ROI, is there?
Unless you get hit.
Yeah.
Well, but you're mitigating risk. So you can't really put a value on the risk until you know what each item will cost you.
But
and most companies don't even know where all their data lives, let alone how much risk costs.
It's in the cloud,
right?
Don't worry about
you know what I mean? So that's the hard part. You really can't give an ROI other than, hey, I want to mitigate this risk for you, and then you get to the client's risk tolerance. I'll leave it at that, right? What is the client's risk tolerance?
If you can shoot us the link, I'd love to read that because I get what you're saying. It's not that I disagree with you. It's just, I don't think you can really apply ROI to security unless you got hit or you get hit.
Well, isn't that what all of the antivirus companies generally do? Is they say, hey, this is your downtime cost here, your days of downtime. Here's the graph. You
said the key word there.
ROI, but
that's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, you see this in practice, right? After an incident, everyone has all the budget in the world while the insurance company is picking up the tab. As soon as the insurance company stops paying, the client typically starts nickel and diming.
Yeah, so we do see, the first 30 days or first 60 days, I should say, it's a blank check. Do what you got to do. Let's get this thing done. Within about 6 to 9 months, there's a restraint being put on, and about a year afterwards, they're slowly trying to slip back into the old ways of doing things.
Because they forget that fear and that nightmare that they're going through. They're getting over it at that point, and they forget how important it was to stay protected.
Brian, is that your first one for the day?
The first one for the last 5 minutes.
Yes, it is. First one.
You just got it because it said juicy on it.
No.
We
It says
shop
cool
at Juicy
kids.
Store.
Cool kids. And my
Juicy IPA.
Yeah, there we go. Free advertisement.
Oh boy, Black
Ooh,
Knight is trying to trigger us.
Well, I mean, that sort of ties into what I was mentioning earlier, which is companies are looking for a way to check a box on a recurring basis because their insurance companies are requiring it.
But that whole CapEx, OpEx
yeah,
is complete fuckery on the part of the same vendors who created this security onion. It's just a way to get you to convince your direct report how to spend more money on them. That's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you try to really go back and figure out your ROI on some of this stuff, it's really, like we said, it's really hard. So, if we'll use machine, manufacturing as an instance because it's really something at least I could talk about pretty regularly. Or at least easily, you have a machine. Let's just say it costs $1 million to buy in 1980s, but now it's a $5 million piece of equipment, and that's just the equipment to do the doodad.
Wait, is that with the Biden inflation or is that without the Biden inflation?
Oh, no, I didn't factor in that one.
Sorry, man. You talk about things raising in prices.
Are you
This is
including
true.
the carefully calibrated sanctions that would only
Yes.
affect Russia?
Oh God, that's a $10 million product now. I'm sorry, Eric.
Yeah, and we got a
And we
6
can't
month
get any
lead time.
parts for it.
Yeah.
6-month lead time for an update.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, anyways, please continue. I
mean, when you're trying to quantify an ROI to upgrade equipment to work with modern technology just because of a networking issue, it's really hard to justify spending all this money on new gear that's working just fine. I mean, if you take the analogy of your car, like we mentioned a little bit ago, if your car's running fine and it's 20 years old, you've been maintaining your maintenance on it, you're just going to and from work, you're puddling around town, there's no real problems with your car, you're not inclined to go buy a new shiny piece of shit because you already own
There's a
a
difference
legacy
when
piece of shit.
the upkeep on that car costs you a couple $100 a month
Well, see, that's
versus a couple thousand.
that's
per user.
what I'm saying. If it's working fine, it's hard to justify the cost just to spend money to be on a more secure platform.
And now you see how those extended warranty guys feel. Nobody wants to buy it.
So I've got a different take. Well, not necessarily different.
Hold on. Are you saying the phone calls that I get about the extended warranty I shouldn't answer, or I should answer those?
It depends if you like MSPs or not. Support the model.
Look, I love all the Indians that love to call me, and I try to talk to them, but they usually hang up on me.
I get just as many car warranty calls as I do calls from MSP vendors, so it's kind of balanced for me. I want to touch on the ROI thing. Eric, you hit the nail on the head in the sense that something's manufacturing my widgets. It's still able to manufacture them. I don't need to upgrade this. I don't need a new snazzy UI to make this look cooler. It's doing its job, right? I will say there is concern with the hardware circuit boards, things like that getting old, but you can replace those. But the software itself, it was designed to do a job. It's doing that job just fine. There's no reason to have to upgrade the software, right?
Is it securely coded, or
right.
was it?
No.
Well, if you silo it, it doesn't matter. If you put it in a vacuum, it doesn't matter. No one can get to it, right?
Is anything actually in a vacuum anymore?
Only if you're out in outer space.
Well, I mean, if you're talking
Easy
about
there, Elon.
stop-gapping things, I mean, you're talking about like fully like network stop-gapped, where there's like
full air gap. No connection to the outside world.
Most of them can't be air gapped. I mean, there's got to be. Well, they don't need internet access, right?
They do not need internet access.
But most of the time, they need FTP and or Telnet.
But you can do that through a proxy.
Would you like to play a game?
You can do that through a proxy that has new technology that can then have the security layers you want, right?
So you're telling me to use my digital shield to QoS the internet. Gotcha.
All right. I want to get back to the ROI on security. I'm trying to give some content for our audience. I know.
Oh no, there's good content. Don't worry.
We gotta have comedy in there. I know. But here's how I look at
security.
security.
Black Knight, you seem to be the only person listening on YouTube. Can you give us a thumbs up if this is good content, and give us a thumbs up if it's bad? Thank you.
Give us a thumbs up if it's bad.
Can our one watcher let us know, or one viewer?
Oh my God.
So
Lord.
Here's the thing. Here's the problem I see with our industry and all the vendors. They're trying to basically sell us products to make money with a boil the ocean approach, right? And it's all about this 40-layer onion where we just want to boil the ocean so we can sleep at night. When in all reality, all it comes down to is, number one, if you're a manufacturing company, what are these critical machines you have, right? And are they properly secured, right? And so aside from that, it's, where does your data live? And I think that's a big thing MSPs are missing. That's a huge opportunity right now is the pillar one of NIST, have we identified where all the sensitive data for our clients live? Because if we identify that first, we don't have to boil the ocean. We can focus on just securing that first, then start securing other things, because the data is what's at the middle of that onion and the whole thing you're protecting, right?
Well, see, nobody really knows. I mean, if you just take not too long ago, the Log4Shell vulnerability, everybody was freaking out because they didn't know their landscape internally or on the public cloud. They literally had to.
Yeah, who used it?
Yeah.
And where?
With all the vulnerabilities that happened, let's go back to what was that VPN last year? Client.
I mean, we did have
OpenVPN.
We had OpenVPN. We did have Fortinet and a ton of
there was another one called Secure VPN.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one.
Right?
Yeah.
You have Log4Shell, you have Print Nightmare, you have the recent one where you can delete shadow copies. So my point there is we've had at least 6 level 8 or level 9 vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Has that, in the grand scheme of things, has that made people understand and establish their asset inventory?
No.
So what will?
Literally, it's not vulnerabilities. The problem is, I mean, I don't think that anything has changed from a business person's perspective of, you read about these things, you see about them all the time in the news. Oh, this massive thing just happened. This massive thing just happened. And
massive dong.
And it's
dong.
But I don't think that. Most CEOs or CFOs or CIOs, they'll look at the news and they'll say, okay, great, but then they'll either ask their ITP on to go look into it, or they won't. And the majority of the time, they probably won't, because they trust the security vendor that they're purchasing from. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I trust the security vendor I'm purchasing from, but I also spend a shitload on it. But at the same time, I mean, any security vendor you buy from a company's perspective, they should be getting quality security.
Andy, wait a minute, though. You and I both know that we test that trust. We trust it. At least I do, and I know you do as well.
Right. No, we test the trust.
But we test that shit. We don't just let it sit there. Eric knows. I mean, you test it out. You don't just blindly trust.
Correct.
But people do.
That's true. I mean, who checks the vendor? I mean, and that's kind of one of the things that Black Knight put there was who checks the vendor, and that's true. And that's, I mean, what else can you do other than test it yourself? Put your security software in a VM in a safe environment, obviously, no internet, no whatever, or internet, obviously, but secluded, and try running some nasty stuff on there.
But here's the catch. Vendors are designed today, at least it definitely feels like it's still that way. If you make noise, they'll get rid of you. Cue into smiley face, right? Somebody made noise, they went after him and canceled the guy. It's been happening, and it does happen. And, when you have someone that finds a vulnerability and they get ignored, they get blocked, or they get blacklisted, that's a vendor saying, we don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. You're just a number to us. We'll move on. So us being, the
Are
guys
you
who
talking
check
about
on their...
ConnectWise and Bishop Fox?
I was
don't know what
thinking the
you're talking
exact
about.
same thing.
That was a big thing.
There's
That
been
was
plenty of
very big.
instances on that. But
Are you talking about any of the big three that monopolize the market? Not that it's an antitrust issue.
No, not at all.
And there are threats of legal recourse if people don't bark to their tune.
Yeah.
As
Black
much as we hate on the big three, we all got Datto shirts on right now.
That's more tongue in cheek. I mean, I'm on my way out of Datto.
I had to
I'm
buy.
not like
down,
Dave,
right?
who can get the updated swag. I mean,
Yeah, I am still jealous about that, Dave.
I tell you what, I send you guys the GIF file. Don't worry.
Hey, Black Knight, I have a thought on your eggs in one basket comment, and I don't know if you're pro or against. Depending on the vendor, I would say I am pro eggs in one basket, just because once you don't have multiple vendors in the chain, there's going to be less finger pointing.
Yep.
And that's it. I have no other reason other than that to justify it.
I'm fine with having a lot of eggs in one basket. I don't know that I'll ever have all my eggs in one basket. Let's face it, in tech, we're never going to have
eggs
that.
Is a lot of eggs, man.
Well, so having a lot of eggs in one basket, or
it's got a lot of layers.
Yeah.
Emotional,
damn it. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I was waiting for it to come up.
Oh, there it is.
Timing was
emotional damage. All right. Where was I even going with this? Oh, all right. Let's say I'm okay with having a lot of my eggs in one hen house. Let's put it that way. Let's get out of the basket into the hen house.
Oh, I didn't know this was that kind of podcast.
As long as there's a dog keeping the wolf out of the hen house, right? I mean, I feel like you should still have some sort of third party checking to make sure that your basket or your hen house is safe. Don't
like a nice IR company,
right?
Like an Eric and Barricade.
Yeah. So you got to have that it's ultimately the accountability, right? You got to have the trifecta. There's always got to be a trifecta. I'm a fan of the trifecta.
But how many freaking MSPs have that? Or MSSPs for that matter, that claim they're MSSP from the ground up?
I am not an MSP. I'm an MSP-ish.
MSSP.
But
I'm a VAM. I'm a VAM.
A good majority of them do not. Nor do they care.
Brian, you're the world's number one VAM. Get it straight.
He's the number one's only VAM too.
I mean, Dave, you're correct. I mean, a lot of them, they don't.
They don't even know to think about it. They don't even know to look for it.
And Dave, that is exactly why you see these guys going around saying, yeah, we can protect your computer for $10 a month.
Pizza Tex.
Dude, that's a $9.50 profit on WebRoot.
Pizza Tech offering a subscription service. We have hit
But that's it. I mean, that's exactly why you see people going around saying, I can protect your computer for $5 a month, include antivirus and include some monitoring, whatever stuff. But that's exactly why.
But shouldn't we blame?
They don't have the time, nor the money, nor the drive, really, or maybe the technical thought and know-how. I don't know which. It's one of them.
Or all.
To say, I need to check my vendors and make sure that they're actually doing what they say they're doing.
thumbs up to John in the chat because 100% correct. Eric, can you do polls on this thing?
Good
Oh
question.
God,
Yeah.
yes, I've been on them calls. I hate those calls.
So
I want to do a
I've
poll,
spent-
or I would like for somebody to do a poll. How many people patch everything
I got your poll right here. No,
and don't? Oh, thank you.
it was there.
I thought
He
I was going to go
there,
to stripper
man.
poll,
He
but you
was
went there.
No. I am
Let's
tired of.
talk about Shiva's poll. Come on.
I'm tired of hearing people talk about how they are doing all this proactive bullshit that is MSP speak for just give me monthly recurring revenue. Okay. And tell me how many people are actually patching everything?
well, it's
Firmware,
impossible
drivers.
to patch it. It's impossible to patch everything.
No, it's
No?
not.
No, it's not.
No. You see, I call bullshit on that. If you have your asset inventory and your asset management, you can automate a great deal of the patching. Whether or not shit bricks, fine. To me, that's an acceptable risk as opposed to ransomware. But you can still manually patch things. I know a lot of MSPs who don't touch drivers and firmware
Do you want
through
to know
Windows
where?
Update.
You want to know how I can call bullshit on that?
Go
You're
ahead.
gonna call bullshit on bullshit?
There's known. Yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on your calling me bullshit. There are known vulnerabilities out there that don't even have patches yet. How do you patch
But
that
they have
shit?
workarounds. They have
They-
workarounds that
Brian, I'm not
Okay,
talking
well
about-
that's
okay.
different than
We're
a
not
patch.
talking
though.
Brent Nightmare
That's different
crazy.
than a patch.
Brian, I'm talking about stuff. Okay, let me rephrase this. I'm talking about things that have patches available.
That have patches. Okay,
Right?
there you go.
And then
All right.
part 2 to that is there are certain patches that are 3-4 years old. Okay. Not Eternal Blue. What? God, I can't. One of those BIOS patches or whatever. The vast majority of IT providers don't know you have to make registry changes after those patches are installed. So just installing a patch doesn't do anything. The net
Yeah,
logon
we've got-
issue, you could have mitigated earlier last summer, and I think the fix went permanent this beginning of this year. But
No.
Yeah, there's an old legacy patch from 2013 that we're starting to see up on a lot of our new acquisitions that we're getting. That it's a Windows certificate handling that requires registry keys to be done. There's no MSI, no actual KB push, but it
No.
shows up on our threat feeds. Like we got all these things that are done. So like when you're looking at patching, yes, you've got Windows patches, you got third-party patches, and you got a ton of CVEs that are not even part of the, your quote unquote third party, like a Nanite or Chocolatey that can do, and your Windows that you still got to patch as well. See, exactly.
But-
Our key is knowing your assets. Exactly.
Well,
$1,000%.
really what Shiv is pointing out is the fact that the MSP industry, the average MSP, I should say,
average technology
Still-
provider. I don't want to just shit
Yeah,
on
I would
MSPs. I'm
just say
talking
Okay.
tech provider.
average
whatever-
tech provider, whatever you
acronym
call
wanna
yourself,
yourself these days.
they still don't have a handle on pillar number 1 of NIST. Identify.
But
Knowing
I'm-
all your assets, knowing all your vulnerabilities, just having a list of knowing what's there in the first place, right?
I'm going to take it one step further. How many IT providers do you know that block driver updates through Microsoft Windows Update because they're afraid of breaking something? And they have to schlep their ass out to go unfuck what they fucked.
Well, I will say that we do the same thing for graphics drivers. We never trust Microsoft for graphics. We've had that screw us.
Well,
We've
see,
had
that-
Can we
screw
edit
us
that
too many
out so
times.
the bad guys don't target his client?
See that time out there. There's a difference. He's not saying he's not patching. He's just using the vendor patches versus Microsoft patches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, but in
Yep.
his case, I know he actually means what he's saying, but the vast majority of IT providers
Well,
haven't touched drivers at all because they're afraid of something
they
breaking.
don't touch the Windows drivers, and then because obviously you can break stuff very easily, especially with bad drivers. I've seen it with current Intel Wi-Fi drivers, Intel Wi-Fi 6. You can break them and brick the ability for that the Wi-Fi 6 Intel stuff to work with the, I think it was the February patch driver update, February March update, breaks it. Now, how many of you guys are going behind the scenes and saying, okay, I'm going to run the Dell Patch Manager for all the drivers and stuff?
DCU,
Mhm.
baby.
DCU is
Okay.
great.
Which Which
But-
had its own vulnerability, by the
Oh,
way.
it has its own vulnerability. as well.
Lenovo had the same
Taken care of
vulnerability.
if
They all
you
do. It's all
use-
command
Hold
and
on.
control bullshit.
Here's the thing. Take it back to the very basic, right? Your ITSP provider, MSP provider, whatever you want to call the guy who stopped delivering pizzas yesterday, found the MSP Reddit group, asked 20 questions on there, what should my stack be, and went and signed up
God.
for everything today, right?
And the
Dude
Discord.
signed
Don't
up.
forget the Discord.
As long as you have
Great.
Rocket Cyber, you're safe, children.
Okay, so
This
he
is
takes
not
whatever
security
RMM, right?
advice.
The
I'm dying.
salesperson is going to sell him some training. He's going to sell him, here's how you should set things up. Dude's going to go set it up, and he's done. He's never
What
going to look
training?
at that again.
What training?
What training? Whatever training your RMM provider salesperson sells you.
When last have you done training?
Most of them don't.
Never. But I said the average provider, the guy who finds it on the Reddit MSP and says, "Oh, look
So-
at me."
so
Let
Like,
me
oh
just
my
give
God.
a
Let's be honest here.
clarification here. Let me give a clarification to the
Okay.
people, all two
Yeah,
of you that are
Yeah.
listening, John and Black Knight, because
There's three.
What-
We got 3 people right now.
fuck yeah, score.
We're pumping it.
Fuck yeah.
Oh my god.
Fuck you, Full Send Podcast.
Wait, is this the #1 podcast now?
Sure.
Now
whatever.
that, now that me and Shiv are back on the thing,
yeah.
we're number 1
Number one.
Number 1 cybersecurity podcast in the galaxy.
in the Oh, I missed that.
Lord.
The
Oh
known
my God,
galaxy,
I
though,
missed-
right?
No,
I
no, but
missed that.
I do want to give some context to the people, all 3 of you. We'll call it 300, like the Spartans. The 5 of us here, Robert was here, and we have a couple other guys that we will sit in a room together, throw ideas around, and bounce things off of each other. So the reason we tend to skip out on vendor training is because we have a deep technical bench amongst our peers. And if you can find something like that, come on in. We're not invited to ours. We don't want you in ours. So make your own.
Although it is pretty easy to get in these days.
However, if you decide you want to give us a lot of money every month, we'll MSP that shit.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get
Number
back
5.
to what Dave said, and even Eric and everyone a little bit here. Should we blame some of this on the Robin Robbins and the Chris Weisers and the hey,
No.
go make a ton of money
No.
and don't worry about all the liability and the risk you're taking on as you make all that money, and don't worry about whether or not you're putting in proper security. Oh wait, oh no, we want to sell security now because that's a way to make more money. So yes, we do want to worry about security. Just sell them a bunch of licenses and let's not focus and worried about it being set up correctly, because it's all about growth
Lord.
of your MSP, and we're all about making more money.
I
That's
don't
all
blame
it is
Robin
about.
Robbins. I don't
right?
blame Chris Weiser.
Oh
You know
no.
who I
Well-
blame?
No, I don't blame them at all.
You know
for
who
what
I
they're-
blame?
For what they are doing.
You blame Weber.
God damn it. I figured it out. Pesky kids. No, I blame the vendors.
Yeah.
The vendors have zero barrier to entry for anything.
Well, that's
And-
fair too.
As
Yeah.
Eric will tell you, there are vendors out there that if you just sign up for their services, you too can be an MSSP.
I mean,
Yeah.
I-
Well, back up though. Who made those vendors who they are?
I'm gonna maybe say some inflammatory
Sleazy
things.
salespeople.
I'm gonna
blame it on
No.
them.
No.
Oh.
Sleazy salespeople.
I can if I don't have to give you a royalty.
Here's the thing. The
My wife's got a cricket. We're gonna figure this one
you
out.
know, there were really back in, say, late 2010s, right? There was Lab Tech, there was Managed Workplace,
Mhm.
there was Kaseya,
GFI.
there was what else?
Oh, GFI.
GFI
yeah.
was
Hound
Animal,
Dog.
GFI,
Hound Dog.
and one other one I can't remember the name of. All of them.
Centra Stage.
Well, no, so was GFI
Eh.
back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But basically,
The
all of
Center
them,
Stage, I think,
except
was like
for
11 or
GFI,
12.
they were quite an expensive solution to initially deploy. And GFI had basically their whole thing was $1 an agent, with a very, very limited feature set and a very, very limited scripting set. It was more or less just a remote application that rivaled TeamViewer. Okay.
Yeah.
Jumping forward a few years, say 2012, 2013, 2014, those high onboarding fees and the high cost of entry spawned off a bunch of people that said, hey, I've been in this for a long time. And I want to, I've seen what's out there, and I want to create new platforms that are a lot more accessible, cost accessible, purely based on the technician count. And we'll create a remote application platform, and we'll create a remote scripting, but we'll obviously, because they're startup styled, we're going to only go for we'll get it out there just enough to make money. And then we'll try to cobble on things to make it work continually until we can get, somewhere where we have the budget now to fix the security holes. And I think that's where a lot of the MSPs or small, like the people that subscribe to the thought and think that Robin Robbins and Chris Weiser are. And don't get me wrong, what they are spouting is good marketing tactics. I don't know about Chris Weiser, haven't looked at his stuff, but they spout good marketing tactics, even for well-established MSPs that use larger, better software. But the part of the problem is that they fail to realize that by promoting a certain style of things, the vendors that are out there in the small space, they don't have the security mindset, and they don't have the mindsets to say, this should not be done. Do it a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll bring up the gun argument. Let's pretend Datto RMM is a gun manufacturer. Are you telling me that because who they sold a gun to, and they misused the gun improperly, is Datto's fault? I mean, you kind of get to that point. I mean, I agree 100%.
And you do get to that point. You absolutely get to that point. And so you can't.
RMM control?
Should you blame the person who's buying it, which would be the cheap ass MSP that's going to be buying this cheap software?
Can't we just make MSP great again?
I like the gun control / RMM control. We need more RMM control out there, damn it.
No, you need I'll tell you what I think the industry needs. Higher minimums. Bleed out the motherfuckers.
I agree.
Higher minimums and at least some sort of certification, like at least say like even the A+ used to be really crap. You could just study for a couple of days and pass.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But now the CompTIA A+ certification is at least 3 different tests. You got the hardware, you got the software, and you got a lab now, I believe, from what I'm being told.
So you're testing consistency as opposed to
now.
Okay.
Oh, is it 5 now?
Yeah.
But hold on. Who says CompTIA knows what they're talking about? I'm not attacking CompTIA, but I am having flashbacks to when I met certain vendors.
Their stuff, even when this is gonna sort of date me, but even in high school when I took CompTIA stuff, it was 10 to 15 years out of date.
Yeah.
And
that's not what I'm talking about.
I even got my CompTIA hardware certification in high school. I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, David.
I mean, it wasn't that hard back then. I mean, now I've heard it's a bit different.
I'm going to Dave. This was your idea, right?
Which part?
Me?
The whole certification thing? Or school thing? Or
no?
Whose idea was that?
Doesn't matter. Carry on.
Just keep going.
Well, Dave, I'm going to pick on you. Fuck.
Bring it on, bitch.
Fuck you too. Okay. How do you feel about all the tests we have to take for Sohos?
Okay, you know what? I was thinking about that. Let me tell you something.
Yeah, I mean,
I fucking hate it, and I love every minute of it. You know what? Because it means at least you put some fucking effort into being an MSP. At least you can
still buy one agent.
You talk about the testing, right?
Yeah, but
the requirements, right?
I'm talking about using testing as a barrier to entry.
Right?
I would use more of a survey as a barrier to entry, because like
Datto's a $50 barrier to entry.
Well, but here's the thing: when Datto RMM said,
Black Knight, they've gotten better.
Hey, we want everyone to use MFA. A good size amount of MSP says we don't want to use MFA because that's too much of a hindrance to our workflow.
I'm thanking Microsoft every day,
and so Datto finally
MFA everything.
Well, Datto forced MFA, and they still get complaints from partners, new signups that are like, "Why do I have to use MFA?" And to me, that should be a prerequisite. Like, hey,
but do you see Datto giving up those customers because they don't want MFA?
Datto, you know what Datto did there? They took the opportunity that existed with ConnectWise having recently gone through their breach, Kaseya being Kaseya, before they joined the Borg.
Oh, the irony.
Okay. And they said, if we make this mandatory, it's going to be really great PR. Let's get Duo on board, who's going to give free MFA to the MSPs, which Duo does anyway. It was a win-win for Datto from a marketing standpoint. They didn't do it out of altruism or need or goodness. They did it because it was a popular move.
You know, I hate to point out, but this entire thing is starting to sound like a sales pitch for Karl Palachuk, because he is trying to get things passed that you have to have certifications and there has to be regulation and all that shit.
I'm against regulating the IT service provider, because you can have a guy in a basement who can wreak havoc on all the guys with all the letters after the end of their names.
Yeah, we don't know anybody around that does that from time to time.
You're not in a basement anymore.
Facts.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know.
The reality of it is any asshole can walk in and do this job.
Well, and
That's
I'll
what
tell
it
you
comes
what.
down to.
Like any asshole can come in and do this job barely just enough to get by.
Well, you just
Right,
Google
but-
Reddit.
But
And
the
to
guy
sell-
who
and to
pays
sell
for the
it to
cheapest
grandma
service
down the
doesn't give a
street.
shit.
Well,
Yeah.
here's what I think. Here's the issue, right? I mean, we fired 5 clients last quarter. This next quarter, we're firing probably another 5 more. You know why? Because they don't want security. But you know what? Like, who do I have to hand them off to? I'm handing them off to another MSP that I know is going to take good care of them the way they think they need to be taken care of, who has the option to take on clients that don't care about security. But we don't have that option anymore.
Brian, do you get anything back from that MSP?
I almost need those MSPs to exist, because who's going to service those clients in
Let
the
them
first
burn.
place?
Sorry, going back to my thing about not putting requirements on the IT service provider, because you can have a guy in the basement that can change the world for good or bad,
Eric?
right? But put the requirement on the business owner. You want to operate a business, you need these basic cybersecurity requirements.
That'll
Make
never
the
happen.
make the IT provider rise to the occasion.
So we're doing that now, and it's a discussion of either they say, okay, yes, we're going to do it, or no, we don't want to do it, and then we're like parting ways. But someone still has to service that client, right? And that's the problem that herein lies, right? Is that, you know, is Brian just enabling the client to be unsecure by handing them off to another MSP that will allow them to be
No,
unsecure?
I would say I would turn that
I
around.
guess so.
No, I would turn that around and say you are not willing to accept their liability.
Yeah, he's not accepting that.
I can't take on
liability.
that shared risk, right? I can't have a client that has a higher risk tolerance than me.
Brian, can I ask you
So-
a question that's going to get people in trouble?
Go for it.
Have you ever looked at a cybersecurity product, thought it was really good, and through your due diligence, you realized they were a hot steaming pile of shit?
Oh shit.
100% of the time. Like you have to be willing to eat crow in the world of security, where one minute you think you're safe, and the next minute you realize I'm not safe, and you can't sit there and keep lying to yourself, telling yourself you're safe. You have to admit to yourself that you're not safe anymore, right? I mean, bottom line. I mean, yeah. Ignorance is bliss with security.
The reason I bring that
I
up
know what
is-
that term means now. Ignorance is bliss helps people sleep at night. The more I learn about security, the less I sleep at night.
The reason I asked
John,
this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think there's a kind of a point in here is like, oh, he's asking you, isn't that what regulatory compliance is for? No, absolutely not. Regulatory compliance is to check a bunch of boxes, and you can, in fact, check a box that says, yes, I'm not compliant.
Or planned.
Right?
Or accepted
And you
risk.
can continually check
Yeah.
that.
Or
I am
accepted
planned.
risk. Yeah.
I planned, or I accept this risk. And there are a lot of industries out there that say no, it is planned. You can literally do this, where it's say no, this is not a risk. Yeah, I accept the risk. That's it. And there are a lot of vendors even out there where you can subscribe to say, hey, we do security audits and all that stuff, but literally you can go down the entire row and say, I accept the risk and be completely compliant per the standards. That I'm not joking. That is an absolute thing. And even PCI, I mean, you mentioned PCI. I don't know what PCI SAC is, but effectively PCI itself, even on certain types of PCI compliance, you just have to pay a fee. So,
but there is something to be said.
The cloud saved PCI because now everything's offloaded to the cloud solution.
Yeah.
And the local provider doesn't have to do shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a point in mapping to some sort of framework, right? And identifying gaps. And if you can set that baseline with your client, you can transfer some ownership of liability in the sense that I've had the discussion with my client that they have these gaps in these frameworks and they need to fix them. And it's not my fault that they're not there. And it's up to the client to decide whether or not they want to fix these gaps. Now, that still doesn't give you full release of liability, but it at least brings the client in the conversation to where you can point some ownership back to them. You still should be requiring that they improve their security at a certain rate over time to keep them as a client. Otherwise, you're essentially just enabling them to keep the same level of security and saying, oh, that's all right. I'm gonna act as a crutch for you and keep supporting your IT, even though you don't want to add the security, as long as you sign off on accepting the risk. That's looked at as ensued liability as well, because you're enabling them to not follow best practices by continuing to support them, right?
Eric, the answer is yes.
Did you put that up again? And I know I love
it's
that
it's my own caption there. So.
I love that my name is spelled wrong too.
Is it?
I always love that. Yeah, I grew up all the time, Brain instead of Brian, but it's not the worst misspelling, I guess.
At least
Dude,
it's not Brianna.
works for me.
You should see it as a compliment, actually.
Yeah.
Hey, John, Black Knight, what are you guys? Are you IT service providers? Are you internal IT? What's your role? And last word of your social, mother's maiden name, and anything else you'd like to share, please.
Favorite
Your
color,
first dog and the street you grew up on, please.
high school name, favorite high school teacher, please.
No, I mean, we got enough of those questions now. We can just pretty much enumerate the rest of it, right?
Fair enough.
I was pouring my drink. I was thinking about something in terms of regulatory compliance. Insurance companies are a great example of that. You don't meet a certain standard, just pay more money.
Pretty much.
Hey, John, as a SOC analyst.
Is it a managed SOC? Are you going to change my socks out?
Do you just select all and dismiss?
I like 2 socks
How do
versus
you know?
1 sock.
How do you know?
But by the way,
Because I work with a certain company.
I will say that most MDR services out there are really just SOC analysts, right? Giving you advice on what to do, because they're not really actionable SOCs.
Argyles could work. I like free shit, so as long as it's free. Well, let me rephrase that in this room. I like free swag, not free shit. I don't need any chocolate shaped.
I'm still waiting on my CrowdStrike
appendages.
swag. Where's my CrowdStrike swag? Come on.
Hey, CrowdStrike makes flags?
They
I
do.
might want one of
Swag,
those.
not
Okay.
Swag.
They make nice swag.
Oh,
Not
Swag.
flag.
On the next
Swag, but it's
episode, I'll
mine.
break out the CrowdStrike swag.
I need to send an email. No, not Nick. Who's the guy now?
I mean,
I'm not
I
worried.
bought my wife a Cricket. I feel like I could copyright infringe with any swag I wanted nowadays,
There you
Probably
go.
could.
right?
Well, you go
I'll
ahead,
start
right, boy.
I'm going to show up with a Kaseya Dado shirt next time.
No cricket
Legit.
required. Just the laser printer. Try that.
It's not going to be a taped on piece of paper. It's going to be legit from the Cricket.
That's right. Steal
Brian,
intellectual property. Be a
How
man.
do you feel?
Are you
that
going to put
you're-
one on your pillow too?
Brian, how do you feel now that you're returning to the mothership that's Kaseya?
We're going down this rabbit hole again. I maybe
Anxious.
start drinking now.
Anxious? I don't know. I mean,
Are you really going to stay?
I've talked with Fred in the past when I was with Kaseya. I didn't agree with some of the things they were doing. I'll leave it at that. I'm willing to re-engage with Fred. Fred, if you're out there watching, because I know you're probably one of our 3 viewers. You know, you just couldn't
We're
wait to
at
watch
It's
this.
four
John.
right now,
John is
mofo.
really Fred.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we're gonna have a good talk. Basically, it's gonna be a coming to Jesus talk, right? Like, hey, like I love
Again?
Dado. Tell me how you're gonna keep me from hating Dado.
You know,
right?
if
Now that
if they
Kaseo
could
owns
do
him.
hold on, if they can do to Dado what they did to IT Glue, which is do nothing, that would be progress.
That will
Mhm.
that will
Yeah,
buy
that
about a
actually
year
would.
to a year and a half.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
At which point RMM is
Brian
new.
Anderson is Fred. He said he's not Fred. He's definitely Fred.
Okay, all right.
That's like saying you're not. You know,
Yeah.
the racists say they're not. No, I'm not really racist. You're really racist.
Oh my goodness.
But I mean, you're literally going to fucking stick with Dado.
Here's the situation, right? It's my favorite superhero. I can't talk right now. I've had 3 beers. Favorite superhero and villain that I've come to hate over the years because of what I've gone through with them. And they got together, and I'm hoping the superhero turns the villain good and that the villain doesn't turn the superhero bad.
Who's the
Bottom
villain?
line.
Who's the superhero?
The
Oh,
MSP.
come on now.
I don't know. You guys were saying
Su-
Mothership earlier. and I was
Superhero,
thinking of-
I was just talking about the board.
superhero Dado, right? Villain Kasea. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the channel could agree with that.
So here's a question, right? I was thinking of Mothership, and I was thinking of Aliens, because Aliens, and then I thought of the actual Aliens movie. And which one are you? Are you the little girl Newt running away, or are you Sigourney Weaver charging into the fight? Right?
I'm the little girl
If
running
Kasea
away
is
to
the
hit with
mothership
PSA.
with all the aliens, which one are you?
All right, now you went too deep on that
No,
discussion.
no.
I'm trying to
No,
keep a
aliens.
high
Hold
level
Hold on.
superhero villain.
Brian just triggered me. The other Brian.
Yeah, I got one for the other Brian. It
By
is
the way,
not-
Brian, I'm doing the same thing. Don't let Shiva's comments deter you from that. I am doing that same thing.
Why in all that is holy are you self-hosting anything these days?
Yes.
Are you, sir, prepared?
Can we look up IT Glue's track record on uptime
That's
lately,
Kasea,
and
that
then
doesn't
ask
count.
that question
Wait.
again?
It's product enhancements. You know how you can't see the recent stuff anymore? That's an enhancement because the database couldn't handle it.
They're enhancing
They're
stability
improving
by reducing
things.
functionality.
It's only been down for a month. It's okay.
Brian Anderson, I'm really curious to know why you would want to self-host
I got
versus
an
have
idea.
them host it from a security standpoint.
I got an idea.
Uptime.
No.
No. I mean,
Robot.
I've been hosted with Hoodoo. The number one thing that I have an issue with is they are hosting it. But the only issue I have with them hosting Hoodoo is every so often you have to go in there and say, "Hey, resync my licenses, please," and then you can use it. But you have to do it as an admin. You can't do it as a normal user. It's just
In Hoodoo?
yeah.
So
Basically
I'll
just, hey,
tell.
recheck my licenses. You gotta click a button, just like once every month and a half.
Why? That's not very automated.
Are we going to raised hands here? I mean, what is?
I don't
this?
know.
Well, I just want to know one thing. When you went over to Hoodoo and signed a contract, did you put a clause in there? No more Kasea?
Dude,
If
they're
you go
month
to
to
Kasea,
month.
I'm out? Okay.
They're
good.
month to month. That's one of the
My
things I
idea-
like about them.
The only
Eric's
reason.
up next.
Oh, thank you.
Hold on. The floor
And yes, I did come
recognizes the
from
distinguished
IT Glue,
gentleman from
by the
South
way.
Carolina.
Just, yeah.
I missed that introduction. Thank you. The only reason from my side of the fence of being able to or wanting to self-host any platform is the ability for logging. If
Yeah.
you had something go on, I can guarantee you, like if you had an incident with Dado, hold on one second, you had an incident with Dado, how hard would it be without a subpoena being involved? Would it be to get the logs of someone potentially breaching your tenant? Yes, sir.
Eric, there's a very big difference between you, as in you, Eric Taylor, and you as the average MSP when it
Yeah.
comes to looking at logs.
Okay, so fair enough. The average MSP shouldn't be hosting their own shit because they don't even know how to secure it, right? But
The
it
average
behind the
MSP will
wall.
actually,
man.
the average MSP will literally put a hypervisor behind them and
On a
run
Windows
their
10?
clients. Yeah, run their client software off of that.
Okay, so average MSP aside, though, huge benefits to self-hosting. The one that Eric mentioned, I didn't even think of yet, and I'm like, holy shit, that's another one on my checkbox now.
Let's be honest here. Self-hosting Automate, unless you had the beefiest of beefy systems, and I mean the beefiest of beefy systems.
So you're talking tech debt. So because of the tech debt,
this is
because
hardware,
of the tech
not
debt,
software.
This is hardware.
This is hardware.
Like you
Well,
need
yeah,
you need a Ford Mustang for that.
But the tech debt with the
Even for the
software
client side of
requires
it.
a lot of software or a lot of resources.
I would say Hoodoo is probably way different in terms of the design of it than, say, the way that Automate worked. And I mean, I don't get me wrong. I loved Automate. I loved how it worked, but good God, the interface was slow.
You know what
It
Automate
got
was?
worse with the new .NET freaking interface crap.
No. Automate was those old manufacturing machines that we talked about. The shit just works. You can count on it. You can rely on it. All day the fucking thing will work, but it's clunky as shit. It's 20 years old. That was Automate.
That's it.
Automate didn't mess up. Automate didn't miss things. Automate's agent didn't need to be reinstalled every few weeks. Automate ran shit. It worked, but it was 20 years old.
All right, Dave, we'll send you your money from ConnectWise later for the Automate plug.
At least you spell with a K. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
but I know the self-hosted version. I mean, you're right. It just worked, but it was slow and clunky.
But what about these other self-hosted advantages no one's even talking about? Why don't we talk? What about supply chain?
What supply chain? It's software. It's software.
He's talking about compromise.
When you self-host, you cut the vendor out of the supply chain for multiple reasons. Number one, uptime. Are their servers up and running? Well, you're managing your own servers. You're not relying on theirs. Number two, feature update rollouts that they decide to do on their own schedule that tank everything. Oh, well, when you're self-hosted, you could roll those out on your own time. There's a reason I wait 7 days before Microsoft patches.
Or more importantly, to impact your business, you can roll back.
There you go, right? Roll back. Here's the third item. Potential employee access to my data. How do I know it's truly zero knowledge? Who has access to my client's data?
If I'm
self-hosting, that's vendor employees. That's vendor employees.
That's vendor employees, right? If I'm self-hosting it, I know the vendor employees do not have access to my data.
So Brian, are you looking at all this from your average MSP?
Black Knight. So Hoodoo, just so you're aware, hosts their instances on DigitalOcean. That's where they currently host all their stuff. That's where if you buy from them, that's where they host it. They'll even tell you this. This was straight up in my call with them that I had right before I bought it. There you go. So do what you with that.
All right, the floor recognizes the man from Florida.
Robert left. I was just gonna say, Brian, all this shit you're saying. You're looking at it from our point of view, not from the MSP's point of view, the average MSP's point of view, who doesn't even know to look for that shit. All they know is, hey, look, cool. I could run it here, and it could be uptime. Woohoo, I got it. I have my own data. They don't even know what that means. They don't care about securing it. Remember, go back to security. The average MSP doesn't give a shit about security. They don't know to give a shit about security.
I agree with you 100%. And if you rewind to the beginning, I said, average MSP aside.
Sorry, I missed that.
Right, there we go.
There you go.
Now, average MSP, I agree. But let's put them aside and talk about the real benefits, right?
The other 20 people left. No problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, don't infringe on the 20.
Oh, we're talking about the 20. Oh, shit.
Yeah. No infringing on the 20.
Oh, man, I'm going to start getting random email spam now.
All right, gentlemen, we're coming up to about an hour and a half. I know people got, weekend plans and stuff.
I got to turn into a pumpkin soon.
Yep. And so why don't we go around the table, and if anybody has any closing remarks, give that. We'll close it out.
One beer per half hour.
From the huge audience, biggest audience ever.
It's huge. It's huge.
That was the worst Donald Trump impersonation ever.
Which one?
You need to throw in the word China a couple times.
China.
Huge.
Dave's sign beats mine.
Oh my
Yes.
God, that's incredible.
Dave takes the cake today.
That's incredible. Wow.
L'chaim, boys.
Jeez.
All right, man.
You know what? There's a good question here. So what do we need? So what we need to do is start thinking about security from the beginning. What I think we really need to do is first identify what do we even care about securing? Do we even know where the sensitive data is that we need to secure?
That comes with asset management.
If
Know
I
what you
recall, I
have
think
and where is it stored? Who can access it?
it was either John or it was Black Knight that was talking about thinking
They might
about
be the
moving
same
away
person at this
from.
point, I think.
They might be. I don't know, but
That Brian guy,
talking
he
about
looks
moving
shifty.
from being a
Maybe all three of them are
guy
the same.
to an actual service provider guy. If he's just if the SOC guy is thinking about moving, I think he already understands the security model and mindset that he needs. But effectively, yes, just think about security from the beginning. Tools do cost money. There is money involved with them. Build
Proper
that
tools.
in immediately at the beginning. Okay, don't start off cheaping. I started off cheaping, and I hate myself every day for it.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're coming from a security, SOC guy, and you're wanting to get into, if you're coming from an MSSP and you want to get into MSP,
Run.
do not take on any clients with less than 100 employees. You will waste your time trying to convince them of the value of security.
I would say you could look at 50. You could look
All
at
right,
50 because the value proposition is there for having an external IT provider versus having
Even
an internal
30.
one. Even 30. 30 the
now
value
you're
proposition
getting really
there.
low.
But
No,
but
30
as
is,
soon as
I
you-
think
no,
that's the low
no, no, no.
watermark.
Those are Jersey numbers, not
No,
California numbers.
No. I mean, because as
You
soon
guys
as
are too woke for me out there, man.
Yeah. Because as soon as you get below 30, the value proposition starts to diminish between just the
You're a cost
CEO
center.
/ internal guy / smart computer guy doing stuff and being slightly overburdened to, hey, we need an actual guy. I think that's definitely where the
I mean, I'm charging a one-man lawyer team basically $500 a month.
Let's
Let's
Chris
cut out
Weiser
the
$100
one
shit
a
man.
right
month.
there.
The
One
one man
man.
lawyer thing is a one-off incident. Let's seriously.
Okay.
I mean,
That's a unicorn.
That's a unicorn. I mean, if you were to look at, I think my bare minimum is charging for a 10-person.
Yeah. But here's the thing: this one-man lawyer guy understands the value in security, which is a unicorn. You got to get you have to deal with a business that's reached a maturity level to realize that they need to budget for things.
Is he paying for security or is he paying for, I don't want to fucking deal with this shit. It's your problem. That's what I'm paying.
He really became kind of a fanboy of us and just said, I want to do whatever you tell me I need to do. And we'll go from there.
Okay.
That's really what it came down
And that's
to.
a nice place to be.
He's also a gamer.
Yeah.
So, I got kind of in good with the gaming side of things.
Oh,
and,
Lord.
Yeah.
So you were playing Call of Duty Black
ROI
Ops
my
with him, and then you
ass.
got him at the client. That's the other point.
Can we change Black Knight's name to ROI, Mr. ROI?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, ROI in the real world. I never talked about this.
That may come down to next week's or in our next episode.
Yeah, I've got to head out.
It'll be next episode, but I'll give you a short sentence.
30 seconds.
What is your data worth? Where is it stored? And how much does it cost to keep it from getting exfiltrated versus the cost of what it costs when it actually is exfiltrated? The cost of what it costs. The cost of what it costs. Yes.
You lost me at the third cost.
Oh, come on. You follow me, right? Cost of exfiltration versus value of data. Where is it stored, right? You don't even know what it costs to secure it until you know where it's stored first.
Or how much.
Then you know what the cost to secure it is. And then once you know where it's stored and what it is, you can maybe put a value on it, on what it would cost if it got exfiltrated.
By the way,
Look,
Shiva
we
said
have the
something really
people saying
interesting. How
that they
much you
get
got?
you. Just shut up, Brian.
All right. The Black Knight's crying, laughing because he's like, this guy's too drunk to even answer my question right now.
Oh my goodness.
All right, with that, we're going to put everybody on, disconnect everybody for just a moment. Thanks to everybody who had joined. Thank you so much if you're still here, our 4 viewers, and maybe anybody who catches this after. We greatly appreciate it. Please subscribe. We will be doing this every other week. We've been getting some great feedback, and we just love shooting the shit and hanging out with you folks. So subscribe, and we'll see y'all in a couple weeks. Thank y'all so much. Take care of yourselves.
There once was a kid whose passwords laid across all sites. They were the same, a criminal, then found their fame by taking that data to go.
Soon may a criminal come to steal your pictures and data and run. One day when the crime is done, they'll steal your account and go.